All right, guys, welcome back to the Chris the Freelancer podcast. It's been quite a while, hasn't it? It has been since, I checked before I started recording. November 2017 was my last episode. That was episode 20 with, who was it with? I'm not sure. Anyway, I am restarting the podcast, and I will explain in a little bit why I'm doing that specifically. But I think we should recap a little bit here and cover a bit of backstory because, the story is important to understanding where I'm at and why I want to bring back this podcast. Okay, so let's start back at November 2017 when I posted my last episode on this channel. That was towards the end of my round the world trip, and my dedication to the Chris the Freelancer project was at an all-time high. That was, at that point, that was basically when my inspiration, my funds, my everything started draining out. I decided in 2017 to basically make Chris the Freelancer a full-time project because that was the thing that was inspiring me the most at the time, and I decided to just put all my focus into it, which, looking back, I don't regret because, we were doing a lot of traveling, but it kind of killed my inspiration at the end of it. And also, like I said, I wasn't really focused on working, and this project historically hasn't made any significant money. So, I had to make a few changes in 2018. And I think you guys probably noticed if you've listened to this podcast or watched some of my videos in the past and been following on YouTube, that in 2018, I really slowed down. So the peak was, when I produced the last podcast episode. And then from then on, it's kind of slowed down. In 2018, I made a few videos, but nothing like the year before. And in 2019, I stopped doing the digital nomad lifestyle completely and spent a year back in Brisbane, which is the city I'm from. That's Brisbane, Australia, for those people who aren't familiar with that city. I made a video on Brisbane on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. I'm not sure if you want to, but it is there if you want to learn more about where I came from. I spoke at length on my YouTube channel about why I took a year off the digital nomad lifestyle in 2019. That video is called Nomad Lifestyle versus Normal Lifestyle, or something similar to that. And I talk about why I chose it and the pros and cons of staying in one place versus being a nomad. So I won't go into those details here. But after that year at home, I started making videos again and I started traveling again, and I was inspired. I made 4 videos on the YouTube channel, and then obviously the great big pandemic hit. And that made it hard for everyone to live a digital nomad lifestyle, not just me. A lot of people I know just stayed in the one place. They didn't necessarily go back to the countries that they're from, but it slowed down a lot of people. And for me, I went back to Australia, which I have no regrets, but I did not anticipate that they would have an international travel ban, meaning that I had to literally apply to leave my own country. We could talk about rights and whether I should be allowed to travel or not at a different time, but I felt that was quite harsh. And now in 2022, the travel ban has been lifted in Australia. I think we all can kind of tell now that this whole pandemic is easing up. A lot of countries are opening up. A lot of testing/vaccination requirements are going down. So it's a good time to start traveling again. And that's why I've spent the last month here in Thailand. In another video, another podcast, I want to talk about, Thailand in more depth and my experience here. But let's get back to the topic at hand, which is why I'm restarting this podcast. So basically, I decided on this yesterday. I was looking at the Chris the Freelancer project. And as I mentioned before, this project has been a passion project of mine. It does not make money directly. I mean, if you guys go and sign up to my Skillshare channel and start watching videos, number one, I appreciate that. So thank you for doing that. And number two, that's great because that's where I make money from my online brand. The ad revenue on the original YouTube channel is peanuts. Obviously, don't make any money from podcasting. So there is no really business model with this brand. So once I started making money through other means and Skillshare started taking off, and my inspiration to kind of travel, make these videos, sort of not this video, but the videos on the main channel, kind of went down, I was like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing with this project. But now that I've been traveling again, I'm thinking like, I should be talking about this, you know? I'm having experiences. This is a new experience for me, also being single now. And, you know, I'm not up to the 7 weeks that I got to in 2020, but it looks like, fingers crossed, there is not going to be another outbreak and the world's going to be turned into turmoil again. So it looks like we're out of the woods with this pandemic. So I'm going to be on the road for quite a while. I have no intentions of heading home. And so I thought, okay, what is my plan now with the Chris the Freelancer project? If you're following me on Instagram, you'll see that I've started posting reels. I'm posting more stories. I'm posting photos. I'm basically back to where I was, and even more so on my Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, definitely follow me at Chris the Freelancer. But you'll notice that, you know, I've been to Chiang Mai, Bangkok, here in Koh Phangan, and there has been no new videos on the YouTube channel. The reason for that is, number one, I'm just not inspired. As I said at the start, and I've mentioned a few times throughout this podcast, this Chris the Freelancer project is a passion project of mine, doesn't make a lot of money. And so when, you know, I made that last video on Sydney as just something to do, because I was in Sydney for 3 weeks and I wanted to, 3 months rather, and I wanted to make some sort of content. But the amount of work I put into that video, and I think hopefully it shows to you guys that, you know, it's highly edited. It has drone footage, titles, everything in there you could imagine. And that is not, you know, easy to put together. I had to spend a lot of time filming, a lot of time thinking about what to film, and then putting it together. And I checked the ad revenue on that. I think I've made $30 from that video. It's got like 3,000 views, 4,000 views now, I think, and it has gained me 30 new subscribers. So I think you're starting to get the picture here. I mean, it's not all about money and YouTube growth to me because, like I said, this is a passion, but that inspiration to create that I initially had has dwindled a lot. So I'm not going to lie to you here on this podcast. I want to get more raw and yeah, just basically be honest with you guys on this podcast and still be able to produce content. But what I'm getting at here is that I'm not really inspired to make these YouTube videos anymore, and they don't actually result in a lot of money. So there's not much incentive for me to make them anymore, especially since I feel like my mission has been accomplished. Like when I first started the channel, I wanted to show people what was possible. I wanted to be like, you know, like, again, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but when I first told my family that I wanted to work remotely in Thailand, in Chiang Mai specifically, my dad said I was out of my mind. It was a crazy idea back in 2015. Obviously not crazy to some people, but to a lot of people, especially people in Australia, especially like older people like my dad, that was a crazy idea. And so my first video that I made after I'd left Australia was basically showing a normal week in Bali, in Ubud. And I did laundry. I basically showed my work day every day. I mean, I did these time lapses, and that was essentially the essence of my channel. I wanted to show people that, you know, I can do the same work that I'm doing in Bali and show you guys that you can do the same as well. I also wanted to connect with other people doing this lifestyle because I was super passionate and inspired by it. And I wanted to meet other people that were ahead of me. I wanted to connect with the digital nomad community. And that was a big motivator of my channel as well. That was the reason why I wanted to go to like new locations and cover them so I could meet more digital nomads and, you know, more digital nomads could watch my stuff and I could make more connections. So that was a motivator as well. At this stage, I feel like, you know, especially since the pandemic, remote work has become more popular. A lot of people know that this is a possibility now. I've demonstrated it on my YouTube channel for years. And I feel like that mission is kind of done now. I've kind of shown people what is possible. And so, again, getting back to why I'm creating this podcast is I want to talk about destinations and topics within this digital nomad world. I want to continue doing that. I want to continue providing value because, you know, I am living this lifestyle and there are things I'm discovering and learning, and I'm seeing, you know, the audience cry out for new YouTube videos, but I don't want to spend a ton of time doing this crazy editing. And I know you probably listening to this, you'd probably be like, oh, Chris, you know, just go back to your old vlogging style. You could just like walk around and talk on the camera. I'd rather just create a podcast if it's going to be me just speaking on camera because, I think you'll notice on my channel, like it's gotten more and more polished and more edited. And, I kind of stepped up my game with the production value of my YouTube videos. And I kind of want to keep that level, and to keep that level, it's a ton of work. And like I've mentioned in this podcast episode, not a lot of incentive for me to put in all of that work. So yesterday I was looking at my brand and I was wondering, what do I want people to do with the Chris the Freelancer project? Where am I directing people? What value, what content do I want to create moving forward? And I looked at everything I've done in the past and I was like, the podcast. I could bring the podcast back. I could talk about these different destinations as a substitute to the YouTube channel. And you might be watching this on YouTube because there is a Chris the Freelancer podcast YouTube channel. So hello to everyone watching on YouTube. You'll be able to see my face as well as hear my voice. So theoretically, I'm still going to be on YouTube, but I'm going to be creating content that is not highly edited. That is just me speaking into the microphone, sharing my experience, and hopefully delivering value to you guys too, and helping newbies get started in this digital nomad lifestyle if you still need help with that. I just don't want it to take up a lot of my time. And I think this will be a good balance of me being able to consistently put out content and talk about what's going on without creating a huge workload for me that overwhelms me and I end up just leaving the whole game completely. All right. So what I plan on creating on this channel to give you, or on this podcast, I'm so used to doing YouTube. I keep saying channel, keep saying this video, but essentially what I want to create on this podcast is I've got a lot of travels planned. So it's going to be mainly about travel. It's going to be mainly about different destinations. I might do some interviews, of course, like I did on previous seasons of the podcast. But previous seasons of the podcast, I, would hone in on people's stories so we could learn from them and figure out how to create our own location independent careers. I think a lot of these podcasts are probably just going to be solo. Let me know what your thoughts on that are. But yeah, I want to cover like my thoughts on different destinations, but I am looking at getting guests on. I've brought this up with 2 other creators in the digital nomad space and they're keen to collaborate. So there should be some interviews or collaborations coming up on this podcast. But yeah, I'm going to be traveling. I'm leaving Thailand soon, so I can talk about Thailand. I'm going to be going to Portugal next, and then Turkey, to give you guys a bit of a preview. So I can talk about all of those experiences. I can talk more about my experience of kind of building myself up over the last few years. Haven't been really talking much about that because I haven't been traveling, and I've been, retreating less and less from YouTube. But here's your opportunity to get me to open up about some of the stuff you want to know. I've got this lovely microphone that people ask me about. Oh, you podcast, huh? And I'm like, no, well, I just make YouTube videos and screen share videos from my coding channel. But yeah, I've got this nice microphone here. I can podcast. Obviously got everything I need, all the tools I need to do this project, to bring back the podcast. So, yeah, I thought might as well do it. I've been reluctant to do podcasts in the past because there's no, it's a very tough business, but I'm not really doing this for the money. I'm going to do this to keep the Chris the Freelancer project going, because I feel like it'd be a shame to stop it now, especially once my travels are coming back. And I'm set up now to the point where I really don't have to, I'm not tempted to go home at all. Not tempted to go home to Australia. I don't want to go home and get a normal job. I don't have to do that. So I am planning on doing a lot of travel, planning on doing this digital nomad lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, for the foreseeable future. So why not bring back the podcast? Why not share my experiences as I'm traveling the world? And hopefully answer some of your questions, provide some values, and help you guys live a life of location independence and freedom as well. So that's my little intro to season 3 of the podcast. I'm back. And yeah, as I'm recording this, I'm excited to bring back the podcast. So yeah, thank you for supporting this project as always. And let me know what you want to hear on this podcast. Send through your questions. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously you can leave comments in the comments box below. If you're on Apple or Spotify, you can't leave a comment, which is a bit of a, they should actually have a feature where you can do that, I reckon. Or you can just, I'll put up, follow me on Instagram at Chris the Freelancer. That's where I'm going to be most active. Social media wise. I don't do Facebook anymore. As I mentioned, YouTube's going to be a once in a blue moon thing moving forward. I think I've basically taken YouTube off my mind for the time being. So yeah, you can send me a DM on Instagram, or I will open up the Q&A feature on Instagram stories. So look out for that on my Instagram account. But once again, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you're watching on YouTube. And I'm excited to speak to you again in the next episode. So I'll see you then.